Prince William has spent most of his life preparing for a future he cannot escape. But preparation is one thing. Facing that future while his father is battling serious health problems is something completely different. For months, King Charles has tried to show strength, duty, and calmness in public. He has continued official responsibilities, appeared when possible, and allowed the palace to present an image of stability. But behind palace walls, the mood appears more serious than the public version of events. This video is not about spreading fear. It is about understanding what happens when a royal family faces a private health crisis while also carrying the weight of a public institution. Since King Charles's health battle became public, the palace has worked carefully to show one clear message. The king is still standing, the crown is still steady, and the monarchy is still moving forward. When Buckingham Palace first confirmed that King Charles had begun treatment, the statement was calm and controlled. The palace made it clear that he would step back from some public-facing duties for a time, but would continue state business and official paperwork. That message mattered because it told the public that although the king was facing a serious personal challenge, the institution itself was not stopping. And that is how the monarchy works. The royal family understands the power of image. A short appearance can say more than a long statement. A wave from the car, a smile beside Queen Camilla, a carefully arranged public visit, all of it sends a message. It tells people that the king is present. It tells the country that duty continues. It tells the world that the crown is not shaken easily. But behind that image of strength there is another reality. King Charles is not just a symbol. He is a man going through treatment. He is a father, a grandfather, and a husband facing a difficult season in his life. No matter how strong the public image looks, no one can pretend that this kind of health battle is easy. That is why every appearance now carries more weight than before. When Charles steps out in public, people are not only looking at what he says. They are looking at how he walks, how he smiles, how long he stays, and whether he looks tired. Every small detail becomes a talking point. Every movement is studied. Every absence creates questions. For the palace, this is a delicate balance. They want to protect the king's privacy, but they also need to reassure the public. They want to show strength, but they cannot ignore the reality of his health. They want the monarchy to look stable, but they also know that people are watching more closely than ever. And in many ways, that is why Prince William's role has become even more important. Because when the king is facing health challenges, the heir to the throne naturally becomes part of the story. William does not need to say much. His presence alone sends a message. When he appears at major events, when he carries out royal duties, when he stands calmly in public, he becomes a symbol of continuity. The palace may not say it directly, but the meaning is clear. King Charles is still king, but Prince William is becoming more visible, more important, and more closely watched. This does not mean the king is stepping aside. It does not mean the future is changing overnight, but it does show that the monarchy is already adjusting to a new reality, a reality where strength must be shown carefully, a reality where silence creates questions, and a reality where Prince William may have to carry more responsibility than he expected at this moment in his life. For now, the palace continues to present calm. King Charles continues to show determination. And the royal family continues to move forward, but behind the carefully managed image one question remains. How much pressure is King Charles truly carrying, and how much of that pressure is slowly beginning to fall on Prince William? The palace has always understood the power of silence. Sometimes silence protects the royal family. It gives them privacy. It gives them control. It stops every private matter from becoming a public argument. And when the issue is health, silence can be understandable. King Charles is not required to share every medical detail with the world. No family would want every appointment, every treatment, and every difficult moment discussed in public. So when the palace speaks carefully, it is not always because something is being hidden. Sometimes it is simply because the matter is personal. But with the royal family, silence can also create a problem. The monarchy is not like an ordinary family. When the king is seen less often, people notice. When a public engagement is changed, people ask questions. When the palace gives only a short statement, royal watchers begin to search for meaning inside every word. That is when speculation begins. People start asking why the statement was so brief. They ask why the king appeared at one event but missed another. They compare photographs. They study his face. They look at Prince William's schedule. They look at Queen Camilla's public appearances. They try to understand what is happening behind the palace doors. And once that speculation starts, it becomes difficult to stop. The palace may want to protect the king's privacy, but the public wants reassurance. The palace may want to avoid panic, but too little information can make people imagine the worst. That is the difficult balance they are facing now. If they say too much, they risk exposing private family matters. If they say too little, they create a space where rumors can grow. This is why royal silence is powerful but also dangerous. A carefully worded statement can calm the nation for a moment, but after that moment passes, people begin to look for what was not said. They notice the missing details. They ask why certain words were used and why other words were avoided. In a normal family, silence can mean privacy. In the royal family, silence can become a headline. And that is exactly why King Charles's health battle has created so much attention. It is not only about the illness itself. It is about the limited information, the careful appearances, and the unanswered questions surrounding the future of the monarchy. The palace wants to show stability, but stability becomes harder to believe when people feel there are too many gaps in the story. This does not mean the worst is happening. It does not mean every rumor is true, but it does mean the public is watching more closely than before. And while King Charles continues to carry out his duties, Prince William is also being watched in a new way. Every time William appears in public, people ask if he looks serious. Every time he takes on an important duty, people wonder if his role is growing. Every time he stays quiet, people try to guess what he knows. That is the pressure royal silence creates. It does not only affect the king. It affects the entire family. It affects the heir to the throne. It affects the palace staff. It affects the way the public understands what is happening. The palace may believe silence is the safest option, but in moments of uncertainty, silence can also become the loudest message of all. Behind every calm royal statement, there is usually a much bigger conversation happening privately. That is what makes this moment so important. The palace has not confirmed every private discussion taking place behind closed doors, but several reports and royal commentators have suggested that senior figures have been looking closely at King Charles's workload, his health, and the future responsibilities of Prince William. And even without knowing every detail, the reason is clear. King Charles is not only a patient going through treatment, he is also the monarch. His role carries duties that cannot simply be ignored. He must continue official responsibilities, represent stability, and remain the central figure of the monarchy. That is a heavy burden for anyone. But when health becomes part of the story, the burden becomes even heavier. This is where the concern begins. The question is not whether King Charles wants to continue. By all public signs he does. He has shown determination, discipline, and a strong sense of duty. He has continued to appear when possible, and the palace has worked hard to show that he remains active and committed. But wanting to continue and being physically able to carry every duty are not always the same thing. That is the difficult truth behind this situation. Royal advisors may have to ask questions that are not easy to ask. How many public duties should the king carry? How much should be passed to other senior royals? How visible should Prince William become? How can the palace protect the king's health without making the public feel alarmed? These are not small questions. They affect the king personally. They affect Prince William's future. They affect Queen Camilla, Catherine, the wider royal family, and the public image of the monarchy itself. This is why even a small change in royal scheduling can become a major talking point. If the king reduces appearances, people will ask why. If Prince William appears more often, people will ask what it means. If the palace says nothing, people will speculate. And if the palace says too much, it may create even more concern. So the royal family is walking a very narrow line. They must show strength without pretending everything is simple. They must protect privacy without allowing rumors to take control. They must prepare for the future without making it look like the present is falling apart. That is not easy. The monarchy is built on planning. It does not wait for a crisis before thinking about the next step. Behind the scenes, advisors are expected to prepare for different possibilities long before the public knows about them. That does not mean something dramatic is about to happen. It means the institution is doing what it has always done, preparing. But this time, the preparation feels more serious because the issue is deeply personal. It is not only about ceremonies, schedules, and royal duties. It is about a king who waited most of his life to wear the crown, now trying to fulfill his role while facing one of the hardest battles of his life. And beside him is Prince William. William is not just watching as a son. He is also watching as the future king. That is what makes this moment different. Every conversation about Charles's workload also becomes a conversation about William's responsibility. Every question about the king's health also raises questions about how ready the monarchy is for the next chapter. The palace may not say those words openly, but the pressure is there. And as King Charles continues to show determination, Prince William is slowly being pulled closer to the center of royal responsibility, not because anyone wants to rush the future, but because the future of the monarchy must always be protected. Prince William's role is no longer something people discuss only as a future matter. It is happening now. For many years, William was seen mainly as the young prince preparing for the throne someday. He carried out royal duties, supported charities, attended national events, and represented the royal family at important moments. But his position was still mostly understood as preparation. Now, that preparation is beginning to look more serious. As King Charles continues to manage his health, William has become more visible and more important in the public life of the monarchy. Every appearance he makes now carries extra meaning. Every speech, every visit, every official duty is watched closely because people understand that he is not just another senior royal, he is the direct heir to the throne. That changes everything. When William stands in for the king, people notice. When he attends major events, people notice. When he appears calm and steady, it sends a message that the monarchy has a future beyond the present difficulty. This is why his presence matters so much. The palace does not need to announce a major change for the public to feel that something is shifting. Sometimes the shift is seen in the schedule. Sometimes it is seen in who appears at important events. Sometimes it is seen in the way royal attention moves toward the next generation. And right now, more attention is moving toward William. This does not mean King Charles is weak. It does not mean the king is giving up his responsibilities. It simply means that during a health crisis, the heir becomes more central to the stability of the institution. William has to be ready, but being ready does not mean the pressure is easy. He is carrying two different roles at the same time. On one side, he is a son watching his father face a serious health challenge. On the other side, he is the future king who must prepare for greater responsibility. Those two roles are not easy to balance. A son may want to focus only on family, but an heir cannot ignore duty. A son may feel worried, tired, or emotional, but an heir must appear calm, controlled, and prepared in front of the public. That is the burden Prince William is facing, and the public is watching him more closely than before. People study his expression. They look at his body language. They listen to his words. They ask whether he seems more serious, more reserved, or more burdened than usual. That kind of attention can be heavy, but William has spent his whole life learning how to handle pressure. He grew up inside the monarchy. He watched Queen Elizabeth carry duty with discipline for decades. He watched his father wait for the throne for most of his life, and he experienced the painful side of public attention after losing his mother, Princess Diana, at a young age. All of that shaped him. It made him careful. It made him protective. It made him aware that royal life can be powerful but also painful. Now those lessons are becoming more important than ever. Prince William must show the country that the future is stable. He must support King Charles without looking like he is replacing him. He must take on more responsibility without making the public feel that the monarchy is in crisis. That is a difficult position. If he steps forward too much, people may say the transition has already begun. If he steps back too much, people may ask whether the monarchy is prepared. So William has to move carefully. He has to be visible but not too forceful, supportive but not overshadowing, prepared but not appearing impatient. That is the quiet challenge of being the heir. The future is his, but the crown is not yet his. And in this moment, that future feels closer than it once did. For King Charles, William's growing role may bring comfort. It shows that the monarchy has continuity. It shows that the institution will not depend on one person alone. It shows that the next generation is ready to carry more weight. But for William, that weight is personal. He is not only preparing for a title, he is preparing for a life that will change forever, and every step he takes now brings him closer to that responsibility. For Prince William, this moment is not only about royal duty, it is personal. King Charles is not just the monarch, he is William's father. So while the world looks at this situation as a royal story, William is living it as a family matter. That is what makes the pressure so heavy. He has to support his father privately but still appear strong in public. He has to carry concern as a son, while also preparing for more responsibility as the future king. And this is not the first time William has faced pain under public attention. When he lost Princess Diana, he was still young. The whole world watched his grief. That experience shaped him. It taught him how cruel public attention can feel when private pain becomes a headline. Now, years later, he is facing another emotional test. This time it is not sudden. It is slow. It is uncertainty. It is watching his father go through treatment while the public studies every move the family makes. William cannot easily show fear. He cannot easily show exhaustion. Every expression can be analyzed. Every silence can become a story. That is the burden of being royal. You are expected to be human but never too human. You are expected to feel pain but still look stable. You are expected to protect your family while the world keeps watching. And for William, the hardest part may be this: he knows that every step forward for him means the monarchy is preparing for the future. But as a son, he may wish that future did not have to feel so close. King Charles waited most of his life to become king. For decades he stood as the heir, preparing for a role that was always in front of him but never fully his. He watched, learned, represented the monarchy, and waited for the day he would finally carry the crown. When that day came, it was supposed to begin the defining chapter of his life. But not long after becoming king, Charles was faced with a serious health battle. That is what makes this moment so emotional. He did not spend decades preparing for the throne just to step back easily. Duty has always been part of his life. Service has always been expected of him. And now, even while facing treatment, he appears determined to continue as much as possible. To many supporters, that determination shows strength. But to those close to the situation, it may also bring concern, because the role of king is demanding. It is not only about public ceremonies. It is also about private meetings, official papers, national duties, and the constant pressure of being the symbol of the country. Even on quiet days, the crown is heavy. And when health becomes uncertain, that weight becomes even heavier. This is the difficult position King Charles now faces. He wants to serve. He wants to remain visible. He wants to show that the monarchy is stable. But he also has to protect his health and listen to those around him. That balance is not easy. For Charles, stepping back from duties may feel painful because he waited so long for this role. But pushing too hard may also carry risks. That is why this chapter is not only about power or tradition. It is about a man who finally became king, now trying to prove that illness will not define his reign. Royal duty is not as simple as appearing in public and waving to crowds. For King Charles, the work continues even when the cameras are gone. There are official papers to review. There are meetings to attend. There are national duties to carry out. There are ceremonies, audiences, speeches, and private responsibilities that the public may never fully see. That is why the king's workload matters. Even if some public events are reduced, the crown does not stop. The monarchy still has to function. The government still has to run its official processes. The royal calendar still has to be managed, and this is where the pressure becomes serious. Some duties can be shared with Queen Camilla, Prince William, Princess Anne, and other senior royals. Public visits can be adjusted, travel can be reduced, appearances can be shortened, but not everything can be passed away. The king remains the central figure of the monarchy. His presence carries meaning. His signature, his approval, and his public role are all part of the system. So when his health becomes a concern, the question is not only, can he appear in public? The bigger question is, how much can he safely carry? That is why advisors may look carefully at his schedule, not because they doubt his commitment, but because protecting his health also protects the monarchy. If King Charles pushes himself too hard, it could create more concern. If he steps back too much, it could create more questions. So the palace has to find a careful balance. They must keep the king visible enough to reassure the public, but protected enough to avoid unnecessary pressure. And as that balance becomes more difficult, Prince William's role naturally becomes more important, because when the workload becomes too heavy for one person, the future king may have to carry more of the weight. The monarchy does not wait for problems before it starts planning. That is how it has survived for generations. Behind the public ceremonies, the royal family has always had private plans for difficult moments. They prepare for illness. They prepare for changes in duty. They prepare for transitions. They prepare for anything that could affect the stability of the crown. So if palace advisors are discussing different possibilities, that does not automatically mean something dramatic is about to happen. It means they are doing their job. But this moment feels more serious because King Charles's health has made those plans more important than before. The palace must think ahead. Who takes on certain duties if the king needs more rest? How much should Prince William step forward? What role should Queen Camilla play? How can the royal family reassure the public without revealing too much private information? These are difficult questions, and the answers must be handled carefully. If the palace moves too quickly, people may panic. If they move too slowly, people may think they are not prepared. If they say too much, they may expose private matters. If they say too little, rumors may grow. That is why planning is so important. The monarchy is built on continuity. It must always look steady, even during private uncertainty. It must show that no matter what happens, the institution can continue. For Prince William, this means his preparation is becoming more real. He is not taking over. But he may need to stand closer to the centre of responsibility. And for King Charles, it means the palace must protect both his reign and his health. This is not about fear, it is about readiness, because in royal life, preparation is not a sign of weakness, it is how the crown survives. While Prince William carries more public pressure, he also has another responsibility at home, his family. William and Catherine are not only senior royals, they are parents. And during a time of uncertainty, protecting their children's peace becomes even more important. Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis are still young. They may understand some things, but they should not have to carry the full weight of royal pressure. That is why William and Catherine have always tried to give them as much normal life as possible, school routines, family time, quiet moments away from cameras, simple things that help children feel safe. But when the royal family is facing health concerns, public attention, and questions about the future, keeping that normal life becomes harder. Children can sense when adults are worried. They notice when routines change. They notice when conversations become serious. They notice when the people around them are carrying stress. So William and Catherine must balance two worlds. In public, they must represent the future of the monarchy. In private, they must remain calm parents, protecting their children from fear and confusion. That is not easy. For William, the pressure is even heavier. He must support King Charles, prepare for greater royal responsibility, and still be present as a father. For Catherine, family stability also matters deeply. Her role is not only about royal appearances, it is also about helping keep their home grounded during a difficult time. This is the human side of the story. Behind the palace walls, this is not only about crowns, titles, and succession. It is about a family trying to stay strong. It is about children being protected from the weight of public life. And it is about William and Catherine trying to make sure that, no matter what happens outside, their home remains a place of peace. Because for the monarchy to look stable in public, the family behind it must also find strength in private. King Charles's health battle has made one thing clear. The future of the monarchy can no longer be discussed as something far away. It is becoming part of the present. Prince William is not king yet, but his role is changing. He is becoming more visible, more closely watched, and more important to the stability of the royal family. This does not mean the crown is about to change hands. It means the monarchy is preparing carefully. In the coming months and years, William may take on more public duties. He may represent the royal family at more major events. He may become more involved in decisions about the direction of the institution, and the public will notice. Every time William steps forward, people will ask what it means. Every time King Charles reduces a duty, people will ask if the pressure is shifting. Every time the palace stays silent, speculation will grow. That is why communication will be very important. The palace must protect the king's privacy, but it must also keep public trust. If people feel confused, rumours will fill the silence. If people feel reassured, the monarchy can move through this period with more stability. For King Charles, this chapter may define how people remember the early years of his reign. They may remember his determination. They may remember his sense of duty. They may remember a king who continued to serve while facing a deeply personal battle. For Prince William, this may become the chapter that prepares him for the weight of the crown, not through speeches, not through ceremonies, but through pressure, responsibility, and quiet endurance. The monarchy may not change in one dramatic moment. It may change slowly, through small steps, careful adjustments, and a gradual shift of responsibility from father to son. And that may be the real story, not a sudden ending, not a public crisis, but a royal family quietly preparing for the future while trying to protect the king in the present. Because in the monarchy, change often begins before anyone says it out loud. King Charles's health battle has reminded the world that behind the crown there is still a human being. He is a king, but he is also a father, a husband, and a grandfather facing a difficult chapter in his life. The palace may continue to show strength, the public may continue to watch closely, and Prince William may continue to carry more responsibility as the future slowly moves closer. But this story is not only about power, it is about duty, it is about family, it is about a son supporting his father while preparing for the role that will one day change his life forever. King Charles has shown determination. Prince William has shown quiet strength. And the monarchy is now moving through a moment that could shape its future for years to come. No one knows exactly what happens next, but one thing is clear, the crown must continue, even when the people carrying it are facing private pain. What do you, Prince William, ready for the heavier responsibilities coming his way? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more royal stories told with respect, emotion and clear facts, subscribe for more.